Man, y'all know the face, y'all know the name, bro. It's that immaculate butter. Everybody can't be like butter. I've been saying this forever. Some people are just meant to be margarine. And if you know what that means you've been rocking with me for a long time. Y'all been tuned into my official podcast, Talk Ain't Cheap. You know the vibes, man. I got a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
So, how do you want me to introduce myself?
It's yourself. You gotta introduce yourself the way you know how to. How else would you want to introduce yourself? How would you want people to perceive you as?
Just Etlin.
That's it.
Yeah.
You don't
Etlin.
That's all you known for.
Etlin. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I have my friend here. Her name's Etlin.
Mm-hmm.
She's on the podcast. She came to vibe with me. I guess tell people about yourself. What makes you special?
What makes Etlin special?
Questions that need answers.
I know. What makes Etlin special? I would say what makes me special is that I'm a Leo.
Oh, hell no. Fuck them niggas. Well, not my mom and my best friend, but like, damn, you a Leo?
Yes, I'm a Leo.
That's a lot of y'all, bro.
August 17.
Ugh.
I just graduated with my master's.
Hey, master's mommy season in full effect.
My master's in higher education administration.
You know the master's vibes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
What else makes me special? I'm a Stapleton girl.
What is Stapleton? For those who are not from Staten Island, where is Stapleton? What is a Stapleton?
Stapleton. So, Stapleton is just, how do I even describe Stapleton? It's one of the little hoods in Staten Island, I guess, if that's what we really want to call it.
This is facts.
I'm a Stapleton girl. What else makes me special?
Can we talk about Stapleton?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I think Stapleton's super pleasant.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. So
I think Stapleton is mad pleasant.
I think Stapleton has gotten pleasant over the years, which makes me very happy because I've definitely been around like all the shootings. You know, certain people have passed away. But I think Stapleton is more like Stapleton is good now. I would just say like the people who have been moving in definitely don't make it as pleasant like
as it could be.
Of
course.
Know, and like cleanliness and stuff, but like seeing like a lot more of the kids that go to the Carter now, that go to the like the little daycare that's right next to it. That makes me happy. You know,
shout out to the Carter Center.
Absolutely.
They get a lot of support. Shout out to my bro Josh. He has his open mic things there.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna be at the next one on the 31st. I think that's this week.
The 30th. Right, it's Friday.
Sheesh. All right, yeah, I'm gonna definitely try to stop by.
Okay. Right, yes. So, that's Stapleton in a nutshell. A lot of people that used to be there aren't there anymore, so that's probably why a lot of people have moved out. So yeah.
No, I feel that because I'm from the harbor. I live now in the Arlington region. And yeah, I say that all the time. Like back when we was kids, and a lot of the people who was really like repping and dying for these neighborhoods are no longer around. They kind of passed on or they moved away. So I understand exactly how you feel about, you know, the pleasantness that comes with like the neighborhood now that a lot of people who are not around anymore. But it does feel, it gives me like a little like hurt in my heart because like people really lost their lives over neighborhoods that they don't own.
Right. And they never will own.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I think I represent Stapleton a lot more now just because I'm home from school. And I think like being one of the very few, probably one of the only that has a master's from that specific area speaks volumes.
It does.
Like it really speaks volumes. I know a lot of people, I know some people from Stapleton that I've grown up with that have bachelor's degrees, but I don't know anyone with a master's.
Yeah.
So, it speaks volumes, and I think I'm always represent
I respect it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like Stapleton. Like I said, my bros, I live out there, and I went out there. I'm not gonna cap. Before I graduate, like when I was in high school, I never was going to Stapleton. You was not catch me in Stapleton for nothing.
Really?
What business I had being in Stapleton? It's the same thing like with Park Hill. Unless I'm going to get my clothes made, I was not going to Park Hill. Like I had zero business was popping. I had zero business being in Stapleton Park Hill. I'll be in the new wasn't going to the new for fun. I was out there once or twice, but I wasn't really going there for fun in the West. I mean, I have friends in the West, so that's whatever. But actually, I was in the new, but I wasn't on Jersey Street. I was never in the buildings. I feel like the buildings are the determining factors of these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's not so much like, okay, yeah, you are in the surrounding areas of it. Like, you got to deal with the bullshit that comes with what comes out of the buildings. But I think it's really so much like the actual project living that determines how the neighborhood kind of goes sometimes. So I was never in the buildings. I felt like there was never anything for me there. Like, if I had to come see you in buildings, I felt like I had to really, like, be on some 007 stuff and trying to sneak in and sneak out. So, shorty live in the buildings, I'm not doing it. Like, imagine, like, you go through some staircases, you gotta go through mad stuff just to get to shorty. It's never that deep.
I mean, they usually have elevators.
Elevators be having piss. You get caught in the elevators.
But so does the staircase.
Exactly. Like, it's just like, so why even be there? Like, I was just like, nah, I'm
people
staying.
Leave there.
Nah, it's alright, sis. Come see me when you got time.
That's
bro.
Crazy.
Come down the stairs. Come meet me at the entrance.
Absolutely crazy.
I'm not going out like that. And I'm from where I'm from, like, and I've always been where I'm from, so it's kind of like I'm cool off of that, and I'm distinctive. I used to wear bow ties every day.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I go to Stapleton?
Facts,
like, they gonna pull up on me just off the strength.
You right.
So I wasn't jacking it. What
else? At least back then. Yeah,
back then, every hood was crazy. Like, we really was on some, like, people on our generation were really on some gangster stuff.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Now people just be shooting,
but now they got like kids and stuff, so they doing different type of things.
They don't got no OGs no more. That's why.
No.
They put them all in jail.
Many have passed on, so
charge it to the game.
That's why it's a lot more pleasant. But yeah,
I feel that. What else? So you got, you just got your master's in higher education. What else are you doing? You're not just around. You got your podcast. You got things that you're working on.
Yeah, so
your initiatives.
Yeah, so I have my initiative that I am currently revamping. So it's called the She Is Fierce Project, and basically the project is intended to uplift, unite, educate, and empower, all women of color. But we're kind of taking a different turn where we want to really focus more so for Black women, just because that is a specific like population that needs more attention. There is a lot more research that needs to be done, especially with Black women in education. More so, I actually don't want to say more so at predominantly white institutions, just because, like I explained to you earlier, I did my thesis on the effects of Black women at predominantly white institutions, and as I tried to compare the effects of Black women at HBCUs, there was absolutely no research done.
Of course not.
Very little to no research done, which pushed my thesis back, just because I had a whole section dedicated to that specific topic, but couldn't find any research.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I feel like a lot of the research that we have, especially in terms of like Black people, Black culture, it's not being done by Black people.
It's not.
And you're not getting into certain spaces if you don't look a certain type of way, as well as the fact that the certain narratives get kind of bypassed because certain people don't understand everything that comes with being Black, and there's not a monolith to Blackness, and even they can't even determine one side of Blackness for a lot of specifics. So I get you completely. So how did that end up working out for you? Because I got my master's too, and I know how important that thesis situation is and how that goes.
So basically I had to just put a lot more thought into what my recommendations and my conclusion would be, just because recognizing that there wasn't a lot of literature, I had to kind of go off in my recommendations and summary section, just because I'm like, well, for the people who are going to be reading this is what I'm going to recommend, because due to the simple fact that there's very little research, I'm letting you know as a Black woman who is now looking into research what needs to be done for those that do literature reviews, for those who do the studies, right? So there was a lot of recommendations that was given, but it still hurt my thesis a little bit. Like, I was trying to hit the 25-page mark, could really only hit the 21-page mark.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but like.
So I do have a question. What are some of the things that you found in your research? So you say like the effects of Black women in PWIs or PWIs and the social economic, or like, I guess, the social aspect of being at a predominantly white institution on Black women. What was your study like?
So basically the study was based off of all of that, right? So what do Black women, what is the Black woman's experience at a predominantly white institution? And I found a lot of different things, right? Like, a lot of Black women tend to feel invisible at these predominantly white institutions. And why, right? Well, one of the biggest reasons why is because Black women are actually doing so well when it comes to education. We are outnumbering, and we are out earning degrees compared to our Black male counterparts. I think the percentage is like 63%. Right
oh yeah,
now, right?
No, without
it's
a
absolutely
doubt.
really high.
Women,
so
yeah, I'm gonna cut you off. But Black women are the most intelligent group
absolutely.
of people on the face of the planet. They hold the most PhDs, and they're dominating masters. So yeah, of course, you're not wrong in any statistic that you're bringing up.
So what I found was that this leads to a number of different issues, right? Where these campus leaders who are predominantly white, they don't see that Black women also face the other issues, right? It's like, well, despite all the issues that Black women may be facing, whether it be mental health, whether it be being a single mom trying to go back to school, whether it be going through identity crisis, imposter syndrome, all those other things that you will face coming to a predominantly white institution, they look at it as like, well, they're persisting through education regardless, so they don't need assistance, they don't need support. But what they see is that there's a need for Black men who are not actually graduating at the rate that they should be graduating. So they come up with all these Black male initiatives. They come up with all these, different types of organizations for Black men. And a lot of the resource, a lot of the money, a lot of the attention goes to Black men or Black male college students, whereas Black female college students tend to be left behind, which creates this issue of invisibility, which creates this issue of not wanting to seek support, because when you do ask for it, it's like, well, you still have an A. And it's like, wait, that particular student may not be coming to you because they're struggling with classes. They may be coming to you because they're struggling with other things like depression, right? Like, it may not necessarily be coming from academia. It could be coming from the home. But what ends up happening is that because of the stuff that they go through, and they're still doing so well, persisting through the 4 years, persisting through getting the master's and the PhD, they don't see the other things. Whereas they see, Black men are not graduating at the rate that they should be. They're graduating, like, instead of doing the 4 years, they're doing 6. Right? So they see that as an actual issue. So a lot of the resources, a lot of the money, a lot of the focus goes towards that. So that was more so what my research consisted of. And I was trying to compare and contrast what it's like being at a PWI like Stony Brook compared to like an HBCU like Howard. But there's very little research. Yeah.
See, so you said a lot. And I agree. I just think, because I don't want to discredit anything you said, because I don't think that I can. I think you're very much right. I just think when it comes to like post-education or graduate education, there's not enough support for minorities and just graduate student points blank period. Like, they said that if you look at the numbers, like, graduate students,
bless you,
man, you know the vibes. Graduate students are the least supported group of students in academia point blank period. And I'm not talking about PhDs, because usually you get fellowships and stuff like that to be able to pursue a PhD. I'm talking about like, master's students are the only group that really don't have any financial aid. They don't really get funding. They don't get scholarships. They don't get support. And if they do, it's at a completely low number. So I think that's also something that, plays a role in it. But I also do believe that there is a silence. I think that people in just society nowadays don't respect black women.
Of course.
And they don't respect black women's voices. Like, there's things that black women do and that they go through, and I don't think people just pay attention to it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know why. Like, I could make assumptions, I could try to figure it out, but I just don't know why. I don't think it's because people just don't care. I just think that sometimes, you know, I look at my mom and my sister, perfect examples, right? Like, they're the type that, like, things could be going, everything could be burning around them, and they still find a way to get through it. So it's not so much like I don't think they need help. I just think sometimes it's like my help ain't gonna help them. It's kind of like they'll still figure a way out. They know what they need to do to get through it. And I think sometimes what tends to happen is now we start to discredit the fact that there is, okay, yeah, right, like, I'll get through it, but I shouldn't have to work as hard to get through it if the support was there. Or I shouldn't have to, you know, pull out my 2 jokers, a spade and a 2 of spades, right, just to win the game, when in reality the game should be fair. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, everyone should have 13. I have, like, why someone's got 14? I got like 12, and I still got to come out with my book. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the space for them. But I feel like it's just sometimes a playing field is just not there. And I think because we just automatically assume that black women just gonna make it on by, and I think it also has to do with who's making a lot of the calls. There's not a lot of us in a lot of spaces to be able to bring attention to the things that need to be, right, you know, brought attention to. Like, you talk about, like, HBCUs, you talking about, like, just education, you talking about business, you talking about really just the world as a whole. There's not really a lot of black women at the forefront of things. And if they are making changes. But then their story kind of gets dampened in media, in life, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. Like, I don't know. I just feel like society as a whole, I don't know if we're really ready for strong black women at the forefront. Because I feel like at the end of the day, as many strong black women there are, there's also the ratchets. There's also the other imaging of black women that's so much more popularized and easy to, like, commercialize and commodify that people don't want to pay attention to that. And it just makes the entire playing field difficult. Like, even with black men, with every black man in the suit that we see doing amazing work or whatever, and I don't even want to make that stereotype or that judgment, because there's niggas that wear sweatpants every day doing great work too. Right. But for every man that we see trying to change the world, for every Robert Smith and all these other people, there's so-and-so in this neighborhood killing their own nigga because of something that they couldn't communicate. So the narrative between what's more interesting for the main population of people who are dumb as hell. Like, you gotta think about, a majority of Americans read at like a 5th grade level. They do. So the majority of people, their minds aren't even on how do we improve, impact, and be able to celebrate those who are doing high quality work, because they themselves don't even think on a high quality level. Like, love and hip hop will forever do better than a lot of things. But if I told you that there's a shorty out here from Stapleton that's doing this amazing work about women, I don't know if people really would care to read that. And not because it's not fascinating, it's just everyone's level of fascination is different.
It's different, yeah. I think for me, when it comes to, like, the work that I'm doing, the reason why I've chosen the population that I have chosen, and I think you make a great point when you talk about graduate students, because I definitely experienced that, you know, just coming out of my graduate program. I was an apartment living assistant. So I, you know, had about 1,000 residents who were graduate students, predominantly international students from China, India, Pakistan. Many come with families. And it's already a diverse group within a diverse group, because graduate students are already a diverse college population.
That's very true.
But then you also have international students. That is another diverse population. You have international graduate students. That is a diverse population within a diverse population. So you have, working with that specific type of student, those specific type of people, you really do see that graduate students are honestly really underrepresented. They are overlooked, and all the work that they do, especially because a lot of the graduate work that they do contributes to society, is really just, like, overlooked, right? But the reason for choosing black women experience, right, over the black experience as a whole, is because I feel like you're a black woman. Not even that, but I do believe that whenever we do talk about talk about Black female experiences, for some reason we always have to include the rest of everyone else, right? It's like, if we look at the data, you know, when we do talk about Black men who are not succeeding well or who are not doing well in school, right? Like, we really focus on Black men. You look up the research on Black men and how they're not doing well or what they are doing well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when it comes to academics or anything, right? There's a lot more research done. There's a lot more focus done. But when you talk about Black female, and I bring this up just because of the research that I've done, it takes a minute to get to research just on Black females, because when you look at the research, they end up some way, somehow, they bring it back to Black students as a whole population. Yeah. And I think that it speaks volumes that we can't just focus on this specific population without having to include everyone else.
It's real.
And I think that trickles down into all other things in society. You talk about Black women, you bring up something with children, you bring up something with Black men, you bring up something with how Black women do this, Black women do that. And for some reason, Black women end up getting lost in the shuffle. And it's like the conversation turns, and it can never be back on Black women. And I think that, I don't want to say society isn't ready for a strong Black woman. I just think that
they're only ready for one type of Black woman, which is the women that's twerking and, you know, doing this, and we see them for more sexual objects rather than actually seeing them for the actual intelligence that they bring to the table. I mean, this is my opinion, and you the scholar in this, so you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I really do believe that if you just look at it from slavery on, we've always, and I'm not just, like, I'm talking about people, men, whatever, have always looked at Black women a certain type of way as more sexual objects. Like, we've never really just say, like, yo, yeah, she pretty, but she dumb smart. Or, yeah, she pretty, but she has this skill set. Like, I feel like people really look at Black women who are smart as, oh, that's kind of like, oh, she's fierce, or she's a little spunky, or she has a little, she's a little sassy. But when it comes down to it, it all goes back to just the sexual aspect of what a Black woman brings to the table. And I don't think that's fair. I'm not saying it's fair, but I'm saying I'm trying to be as, like, objective and as, like, politically correct, as well as just being a scholar about it, looking at everything. Like, when people talk about Black women, they're not just talking about how dope she is as a person. They're talking about all the things sexually she brings to the table, or how she dressed that arouses them. It's kind of like fetishizing somebody.
Right.
And I just don't know if people are ready to connect with a woman, a Black woman that's strong, like Michelle Obama. Like, even Michelle Obama was dark skinned and dusty looking. I don't think people will respect how amazing she is, just because. And I'm not trying to, you know, associate dark skin and dustiness, but I'm saying, let's say she looked like she was a dark skinned woman, and then also was from a certain environment. She looked like what she was from.
Right.
I don't know if everybody will respect her as much, or value her opinion in comparison to if she's the way she looks now and she's prim and proper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I said, I think as a whole there still is even, like, stereotypes of what kind of blackness Black women have to be. Like, Black women just can't be. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you know, I don't think people are ready for a Black woman to just be like, okay, yeah, she could be twerking and all that, but still not want to fuck with you. Yeah, she could be ratchet as hell and still be your lawyer, your doctor, your principal. Like, I don't know if people could wrap their minds around, well, yeah, she could, you know, have sex with you a certain type of way and then still treat you like, and still make way more bread than you, still do way more things, and still be a certain type of way, and hold herself to a certain standard, and still close out deals. Like, I don't know people could wrap their minds around being that multifaceted, that talented, and still being a Black woman, and still being able to handle everything. Like,
well, I think there's a lot of different things to kind of, like, point out, right? So the first thing I would say is, when it comes to how people see Black women, especially dark-skinned women, and how we're automatically looked at, you know, and fetishized and sexualized. Well, let's really talk about that in America. We'll stick to America, because when you go to different countries and stuff, it's very different, right? Different. You go to Jamaica, sexuality is embraced. So that's a different type of like, that's different in itself. In America, if we really talk about it, a lot of that comes from racialized trauma, right? So starting from, slavery and post-slavery, right? It's called, they would refer us to as the Jezebel, right? And that came from white people that, certain black women with the big hips, the big butt, and they sexualized us. And that is embedded in our Black American trauma. At least that's what I believe. I won't say to quote me. I don't have it like 100% like down pat, but I know that is what they would call, the Jezebel, the Sapphire, and the Mammy, right? So like when you look at like the Aunt Jemima like logo, that's what they would consider the Mammy. The dark skin mama that would take care of the white kids. She got the net on her head, etc. Right? The Jezebel is the black woman who was over sexualized. So that has passed on down. Now, when it comes to saying that, is America or are people ready for a strong black woman? Who are we talking about? Are we talking about today's black men? Are we talking about white people? Are we talking about the 1%? Are we talking about the government? Are we talking about the black men that are actually extremely successful and rich? Like, who are we talking about, and who's not ready? Because the reality is that even though you don't see it in the media, there are a lot of black women, dark-skinned women, that are doing the damn thing. And that's just something that people have to accept, whether they see it in the media or not. Now, as far as the twerking, as far as the love and hip-hops, as far as all of that stuff goes, right? I see it as both ways. I do feel like sometimes the way it's represented on the media and with the editing and all that stuff, it does make black women look bad. But at the same time, it's also like the twerking and all that other stuff, right? Like, I don't see why we shame it. I don't see why we shame stripping at strippers. I don't see why we shame any of that. Because the thing about, if we look at dance hall culture, they're not American. They're from Jamaica. And us black Americans, Spice comes here, we're skin out, all of that. They do exactly the same thing in Jamaica, and we love it. But here in America, black women do it, and now we're shaming them. What's the difference? It's the same thing, right? You have, people from different cultures that twerk, right? For family gatherings. That's just what they do. You know what I'm saying? Like in Honduras, they don't necessarily twerk, but they have their own little way of dancing with the drums and the maracas and stuff. And it's not shamed. So I feel like when it comes to like ratchet black women or, being over-sexualized or whatever the case may be, I think a lot of that is more so an American thing, because America tends to shame sex.
Yeah.
Which is odd to me, because when you go outside of outside of America, sex seems to be more talked about and more embraced in different countries. Whereas in America, you don't do that. It's frowned upon, but it's more so frowned upon when it comes to black women. So that's just that's my take on that. Now, as far like speaking about like Michelle Obama and stuff like that, I don't know, really. I feel like Michelle Obama, like after reading her book, she's literally just like, she's honestly just one of a kind. And I feel like we can have the Michelle Obamas, but we could also have, I don't know, who's your...
Amber Rose.
We could have the Amber Rose, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like there's a lot of power in owning your sexuality. There's a lot of power in being sexually liberated. There's a lot of power in knowing what you like and not being afraid to show it, to embrace it. I think what might be taking us away from it is that a lot of it is for validation. That's how I feel. Now, I could be completely wrong. Everybody has their own opinion, but I feel like a lot of it is more so for validation as opposed to like finding oneself and being happy with oneself and accepting oneself. So that's my take on that, really. But I don't think we're not ready for a Black woman. I think that we don't have the support standing behind us. Like, that's just how I feel.
So keep it a buck. Let's talk that shit now.
Okay.
You know, you on talking cheap. This podcast is really immaculate. Like I really am happy that you came. Like I'm happy I went to Stapleton today, because everybody who knows that I spoke to, I was like, yo, I'm not trying to go to Stapleton, and there was a tornado warning.
Oh God, and so it ended at like 10:13.
I mean, but anybody who ain't serious would have been like, nah, I'm going right to my house. So right. I'm happy I really made this move. Where is the support lacking from?
Well, I think the support lacks from both Black men and Black women, period. I think a lot of the divide comes from a number of different things. One, colorism. Yeah. If we really talk about it, light-skinned women don't experience this, and dark-skinned women experience that. And, there's so much about colorism, and, you'd still be a house nigger, you still a nigger, right? Like, all this other stuff. And I think that colorism is important to talk about, but everyone has to be willing to talk about it. The light-skinned people, the dark-skinned people, the brown-skinned people, the tan, whatever color, whatever shade of Black. I think colorism is the one thing that definitely divides us, just because, and even if we're just, especially when it comes to gender too, right? Like, not just talking about light-skinned people, like light-skinned men, light-skinned women, but when you break it down by gender, light-skinned women, when we go from between light-skinned women and dark-skinned women having the conversation, it's a conversation that tends to blow up a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Because light-skinned women automatically feel attacked, whereas dark-skinned women automatically
feel like you're trying to enlighten somebody.
They're trying to get you to understand, but it's like there's something wrong with the communication. Yeah. There's something that's not being communicated right for both parties or all parties to be able to equally understand, like, look, your trauma is... I'm not saying my trauma or my whatever, is worse than yours. But as a dark-skinned woman, I do go through it more, or I do go through it tougher than a lighter-skinned or fair-skinned woman. Whereas I think that lighter-skinned women tend to automatically feel attacked just because it's like,
I didn't plan on... I didn't want to be born light-skinned.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that the way it comes off, right? So I think there's something wrong with the conversation. Yeah. It's not being steered correctly. And I don't know what it is. I guess I have to do more of my research on that. But I think colorism plays a big part in why we don't have the support. The second thing I feel like, we don't have Black women don't have the support is Black men. Like, I'm going to say it.
No, talk about it.
And I think a lot, I don't know exactly where it all stems from, and I don't understand why, but I do remember reading about how in the 70s, the Black household became extremely matriarchal, especially around that time in the 70s, where a lot of
immigrants probably were coming to the nation.
Absolutely. This was based off of the Moynihan report, and they were saying that this is not good. This is not good for the Black American family, for it to be extremely matriarchal, where the woman is taking over the household, and they're the ones that are raising the kids and bringing home the money, etc. But I think what ended up happening was that around that time, a lot of the field work and the agricultural work was
declining. A lot of people started going to urbanized nations, right? Urbanized communities and stuff like that. Exactly.
And a lot of people from the South started moving up north, and a lot of the jobs up north that were being given to Black people were more so like the household work, sewing, etc. Right, and that was more geared towards Black women.
I mean, also you got to think about around the 70s, the crack epidemic hit New York.
Welfare Queen, all that stuff came out.
Redlining, gerrymandering, like a lot of stuff was going on politically. To the introduction of the war on drugs.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I you're right. I think
that broke the Black man and the Black woman up. Like, I think that's one of the things people tend to forget about the historical aspects that have played a huge part in why Black women and Black men can't see eye to eye. People don't believe, or people don't think about how trauma is passed down generation, but it is. And I think people don't want to hear it. People feel like, well, you know, as a black man, you should be supporting. As a black woman, you should. And it's like, well, understand that, like, trauma is carried in the body. It is carried in the blood, right? Like, trauma doesn't start in the brain first. It hits the body first. And then the mind tends to react. And this is a total different topic, but there's a lot more research done about police brutality and how trauma tends to hit the body first, which is why police officers shoot first and think later. But we're not going to talk about that because that's a different topic, right? It's not an excuse for the continuous police brutality, but there's a lot of research that's starting to back a lot of that up, where it's like, okay, there needs to be better training for police officers, because a lot of the police training is a lot more military style, which is
shoot first, ask questions second.
Exactly, right? Where it's flipped. Whereas in the military, it's starting to be more police type of... It's completely backwards, but that's a different topic for a different day. But I don't think that black men and black women are having these conversations, or are even interested in having these conversations as to how the story has been unfolding, right? Yeah. And I think it's important for people to understand the historical aspects in order to move forward. You can't...
No, go ahead.
You can't just be like, okay, we're going to support each other. That's it. And not understand everything else that has come with it. You can't.
Which is true. Because even when I went to an HBCU, I went to Grambling. And one of the things that kind of worried me was that they weren't teaching black history in the intro classes at an HBCU. I think that should be like the number one thing you teach.
Yeah.
Like black history, top to bottom, from where you start to where you are now. And I agree. Also, I think one thing that we don't, highlight is education levels too.
Right.
I think that a lot of the conversations that people want to have, they're not having with people that can actually accurately understand the conversation in depth. Not just talking like, oh yeah, so and so, yeah, my peoples is from the South and we was this and that. Like, I'm talking about really on an educational level, like actually having facts and backing up. I don't think a lot of people who, like, if you want to have that conversation that we're having right now with the average person from your hood, how you think that's gonna go?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not. Like, and these are the majority. Like, these are the majority.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, what the average black person with a master's, like, we're like 1%, or no, we're like 1.1% if you're a black PhD or a black man PhD. I think if it's black PhD, it's like 5%. And then you talking about with a master's, that number shrinks to like 13%. Like, that grows to like 13%.
Yeah.
So you talking about 13% of people who are black with masters and stuff like that, right? What happened to everybody, the other 87%? You know what I mean? Like, if you're not able to communicate with people that haven't had the opportunities, the resources, etc., to really understand what life may look like or what history really is for them past what they've only seen, of course, there's going to be a disconnect. Absolutely. And I definitely agree with the communication issue. I think that no one has been taught how to communicate effectively. Nobody has been taught to communicate for the sake of listening and understanding, but not just trying to get a point across.
Yeah.
And that's why I study communication. I've noticed it. I've seen the pattern, especially if you're talking about through mediums. People don't ever think about, like, yo, the way that I'm talking through a platform versus, speaking face to face, or, the conversation that you have with somebody over a text message versus on the phone are two different conversations. Right. You can talk about the same thing. And I think that even within our own people, we don't think that, the way that we speak to each other, we don't know how to. We don't know how to communicate how we feel without it being an ego war or a battle of who's more this or more that. Yeah. And I don't think that that's because, we ourselves hate each other or we don't love it ourselves. I just think that we only know what we know, and we can only go as far as we know. Like, me and my bros always speak about that. We building stuff right now. I can't speak too much because of a non-disclosure, but we building programs to teach us how to learn as much about money, finance, and legacy as we can. Because people don't know how could you tell somebody who's never had anything to make money? Like, how do you show somebody, like, yo, like, this is how money works, when in reality, they don't know what real money looks like. Right. They get it how they get it, and then after that, they spend it how they spend it. They don't know that this is a tool that can actually bring you and your family and your generations come after you out of where you are. They don't know that. So who can I blame them for not knowing? Like, they always say, like, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but for the most part, if you never had access to certain information,
Right.
even if you got the computer, but you never knew that this was important or this could really dictate your life outside of the things you have to deal with day to day that dictate your life, are they really wrong for not being super aware?
Mm-mm.
So I agree with you. I think lack of communication is one thing. I think education is another thing. I think situation is another thing. I think also perspective, culture, all that. There's a lot of levels to why we are disconnected, and this is not by accident. No. You gotta think about anytime, and I'm always notice this. Anytime something crazy is happening in government, guess what? There's your favorite programs on TV. Twitter's going crazy about something. Love and Hip Hop, Kardashians, whatever. Whenever something's really going on in media, and I've studied this stuff. Whenever there's something really going on in media, or in government, or in politics, or in finance, stuff that's really law, that's going to really affect you, guess what's on? Love and Hip Hop, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Twitter, somebody did something and now everyone will talk about it. But when the stuff that really matters is kind of it's just happening. It's under people's noses. Just because, like I said, it all goes back to what you're saying. It's people just, education. Mm-hmm. It's all about communication. All that stuff, but people don't want to have those conversations. They just don't know how to. They don't understand how the game go.
They don't.
Like I said to some of my friends, I said, bro, people who live in projects, and I'm from this area. I'm from where I'm from. But people who live in projects, the parents, to me, are some of the most selfish people ever. And then I had to take a step back and be like, no, they're not, because they're trying to just provide a lifestyle. But you can't pass on that project apartment to your kids. Your kids don't got no equity. It's not a condo. You know what I'm saying? You didn't buy this. You can't say yo, your great grandchild can live here. You can't. And a lot of these projects are privately owned. So let's say I want to kick you out, move you out. Where you and your family going? Niggas will die for a block that they don't own. But a real gangster could come through, buy their house from them, kick their parents out, and now what? And we the only people that really, and I'm not trying to, like I said, I don't even want to make it about black men, because this is just not the podcast for it right now. But we the only people that will have no issue at all trying to kill us or kill somebody over some beef or over some pride. But let a Jewish nigga come through on that same type of disrespect, you're not doing shit. Let an Italian nigga come through, and that shit just never sat well with me. Me, I keep the same energy with anybody. Cops, professors, doctors, lawyers. I don't give a fuck. I know what I came from. I know who I am. I know what my lineage is. I know how to present myself, and I know what I won't tolerate. So for me, it's really hard for me to take how niggas will go and do the most dirt damage to us that look like us versus somebody who don't look like them I don't know him. I get you completely. I definitely agree with everything you said. I do believe that there is a disconnect. I do believe conversations need to be held. I do believe that black women do not get their fair shake, and I do believe that people should give black women more attention. But I also will say, and I'm not trying to be, disruptive to the movement or whatever, but I do feel like a lot of black women who speak on y'all behalf do not help at all. A lot of them come from a place of trauma that is unaddressed. A lot of them come from a place of, I hate niggas, I hate men, and it's
speak on that.
I mean,
give an example.
I'm one of the people that I'm on Twitter a lot. You know what I mean? I'm on social media a lot. That's where I get my money. I make money off of social media. I've been able to throw my events and do what I do. June 15th, wine on the water, on my event.
Right.
You know what I mean? On social media. And I've seen that a lot of the women that take precedence, or a lot of the women that I feel are the ones speaking up, I'm not saying they're not dumb. They're definitely right. But I think the way that they go about it is just so wrong.
Give me an example.
I feel like trying to humiliate somebody. You know what I mean? I've seen some stuff I don't want to go too, because I feel like it's super specific. But I've seen people say, "Oh, this man is a creep." I'm not saying that they're wrong, because they're not wrong. But I don't think that was super impactful to whatever mission you have. You know what I mean? It actually makes you look like niggas can't even fuck with you. I see girls talking about, oh, yo, this is a great example. Good morning to everybody except these niggas. Or good morning to everybody except black men. And these are black women. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, okay, I get it. There's a lot of black men who are not good. There's a lot of black men. Like, bro, niggas know that other niggas ain't shit. Like, straight up. That's why if you ever notice, dudes will judge you off of who you fuck with rather than who, like, how many bodies you really have. Niggas don't care about your body. It's really about who you fucking with.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, damn, that's the type of niggas you into? Like, as a man, a black man, it's not like niggas be dirty macking niggas, because niggas will never speak up on it because that's disrespectful. Like, you don't ever want to be that kind of person, but it's kind of like, yo, like, that's the type of things you're interested in, or you're that naive that you can't see past certain acts. That's what a nigga would do. Like, the average man who just out in a black man, I'm not, and I mean, that's what he's doing. But like some black women really will talk down. Like, really, that's their motive. That's their way of trying to be activists. And I'm like,
so talking down on black men, and
not even just talking down on black men, because a lot of niggas do need a talking down on. But it's kind of like, if you want allies, get allies. If you want enemies, create enemies. What are you trying to attract? What do you want?
Right.
Because, like, yo, I'm all for the movement. I understand. Like, my mom, my sister, a black woman. My mom created a store in the hood. Ain't no niggas did that. Ain't nobody else did that. She did that. She took that on. Right. I can't take credit for that. That's her. So I'm, like I said, but for me, it's just like, I'm all for that. But it's like, then at the same time, a lot of these women really speaking from their hurt, and they expect help from that. Like, you want niggas that already, like I said, that's not including what they got going on, they own trauma. So now be like, oh, despite that, like, oh, let me try to help, let me try to be a part of this. But then you telling, nah, I don't want these niggas. Fuck these niggas. These niggas ain't shit anyway. Like, sis, what do you want? You want niggas to help you, or you want niggas to add to your problems? And that's what I just sometimes I see. That's what I feel like sometimes. It's like, you saying, oh, but I'm not saying all niggas. But like, who are you talking about? You too intelligent to just be speaking for just be speaking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so what you're saying is that you see a lot of black women. Is it okay? Because I'm still trying to like follow. Is it more so like black women speaking on like black men, how black men aren't shit, or just like I'm still trying to piece it together in terms of like how black women aren't helping other black women or the black women movement?
I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like the women who are speaking the loudest, may not be the best representative figures. It's kind of like, let's talk politics, right? Bernie Sanders was great for the Democratic Party, but, you know, it really was Hillary really making all the noise, and she was really the one that was really at the forefront of the Democratic Party. And I'd be honest, I don't think even Hillary Clinton was good enough to really beat out Donald Trump, because she just wasn't the right person to speak on their behalf. Not that her platform wasn't dope or what she was trying to do wasn't dope. She just wasn't the right person, and her messaging just wasn't right. It wasn't going to be impactful. Not because she's a woman, just with what she had going on. It just wasn't going to help her. And that's how I feel like there's certain people speaking on behalf of people who really need to get their message across, but those people that's in the forefront ain't really helping. They're not the right person. They're not going to be able to cut through certain messaging.
And who are these types of women that are in the forefront? You know what I'm trying? I guess that's really what I'm trying to understand.
That's a great question. See, I think that also depends on who you asking. Like, for me, I'm talking about girls I see that actually are about it. I'm looking at the micro influencers. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the people who I see that, you know, they were running organizations that were bringing this kind of attention to me, bringing these issues to me. Or so-and-so girl that I know that really was about it. Or, you know, these people that I met at these conferences, and these women that really say like, yo, this is what I'm about. I'm black feminist. But then it's like, damn, sis, like, okay, I'm buying it. I understand it. I see it. But then I also look at you, and you're the first one to be to condemn anybody. It's kind of like,
got it.
Because I can't say like who I like. Amber Rose, I can't knock Amber because I don't know Amber. I understand her mission. I don't really know, no respect to Amber, but I don't really be caring for what she got going on, because I don't know. It's like, I don't know how to take her. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But I don't also look at her as the revolutionary for women, for black women. I don't look at her as somebody I'd be like, yo, I want my daughter to be like Amber Rose. Straight up, no shade to her. I think her work is amazing. But for what it is, if I had to look at somebody, I'm not saying like, yo, be like Amber Rose.
Okay.
But then I see Michelle Obama. I see what she on. I see what she trying to do. I see how she carry herself. I see what her mission is, and I see how she not biting her tongue, and I see how she carry herself. I see how she moving. I could respect that. Because it identifies with me as a person.
Okay.
A lot of the women that I see speaking up on behalf of black women, bro, I respect them because they're utilizing their voice. They talking their shit. They supposed to. But then it's like, this person ain't gonna help y'all. And I'm not saying that to break down what black women have, but it's just like, I wouldn't follow somebody I know wouldn't help my cause.
And why do you think that, like, that specific woman isn't helping? Because of what they're saying on, like, social media? Or, like, is it more of, like, the character?
I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I just don't think that... I think people want to be around people that they like. I think people want to be around people that not so much makes them feel comfortable, but they could respect. And I'm all about consistency. Like, yo, Cleese go talk his shit regardless. That's just what it is. Good, bad, happy, sad. I stand by my word. I live and die by that. I feel like a lot of these women that I do see speaking up about black women, I feel like you can't be pro-black woman and hate everybody else. That's just how my mind works. I can't see somebody like, I can't be pro-black woman, pro-life, pro-choice, I can't be pro something and anti everything fucking else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm all for black women, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that certain things a black woman gonna do is gonna be okay with me. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh, just because she's a black woman, look the other way. No, that's not how that go. Right. I'm saying, like, yo, like, for me, if I had to take a stance on black women, I'm like, yo, listen, look at innovation, look at the work, look at the branding. Show me somebody who's doing more. Straight up, just like that. I don't even gotta talk too much. Look at what's going on. Y'all like black women. I really be like, yo, honestly, if black women want to make a change, stop fucking with all these niggas. Like, just cold turkey, stop. Like, don't even fuck with them.
Absolutely.
See how long, bro. I told my class, right, the Montgomery boycott wasn't about black people just not taking the bus. It was about crippling a system. And what that system was when you hit people in the pocket or hit niggas with what they want or whatever everyone values, and you force them to not have to make decisions based on what you want. Right. The Montgomery bus boycott, I can't say that shit. Montgomery bus boycott, what it did was crumble the economic foundation of the bus system.
Of course.
Niggas couldn't afford... Yo, if nobody's giving bus fare, no one paying to the buses, who's paying these bus drivers? Why are they here?
Right.
So now you putting a bunch of motherfuckers out of jobs, and now you have to listen to them like, damn, like, man, all that money that was there ain't there no more, and it came from them. So I feel like with women, if women want to make changes, and I'm not saying like niggas is creeps, bro. Like, I'm not capping, bro. Niggas be raping women over pussy, bro. Niggas be spending money on pussy. That just shit I just don't get. It's free commodity, niggas. But I do also believe, like, yo, real talk, if black women was like, honestly, yo, we not fucking with this, that, third. Straight up. This, that, the third. 3-4 things that women, I think, across the board could appreciate, respect, and understand. Dumb, smart, intelligent, pregnant, kids, everything. If women were like, honestly, we're not messing with dudes who are not taking care of their kids. We're not dealing with dudes who are raping women or calling women out their name. And we're not dealing with people who don't really care about my self-respect in whatever way that looks like. So, like, for example, let's say you feel like girls might say like, yo, Cletus don't like taking girls on dates, so he don't respect me. Cool, don't mess with Cletus. Stand by that, but also be willing to take the consequences of that. Like, I feel like a lot of women sometimes don't either. Like, right. All right, they'll see a nigga mess with a white girl. Oh, whoa. It's like, nah, this is what it is. If that's what he's on, curve that nigga. Let him be with that.
Right.
Let him, like, live and die by the consequence and actually be ladylike about it. Like, straight up, be like what you would want. Like, be your highest form of self. I think that's all women have to do. Be your highest form of self and worry about what y'all got going on. And at the end of the day, just these niggas gonna have to come around. Y'all shouldn't have to lower y'all standard for these niggas, man. Y'all shouldn't have to lower y'all standards for society. I think you guys are bigger than society. I think women as a whole are the only reason our society is even standing. These black men are working their ass off, not just for themselves, but for their family, for their wife, for whoever they love, right? So at the end of the day, the motivation is always gonna be about these queens, regardless. Good, bad, happy, sad. A lot of these queens don't hold themselves up to that same standard. And I'm not trying to condemn women. everybody got their traumas, like you said, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of these queens was on some like, yo, straight up, I'm not dealing with this, that, the third. And none of my girls is dealing with this, that, the third. You don't like us, go to the other group. But now the other group is not dealing with that either.
Right.
And the other group is not dealing with that. And it's just something simple. It don't even got to be on some like, it could be like, yo, real talk. If every girl's like, I look at Twitter, every girl wearing white toes. That whole white toes get chose thing, boom, boom, boom. Everybody was on that wave.
God.
And then that made women look way more appealing because every girl was wearing white toes. Craziness. It's shit like that. I feel like, yo, listen, like, and I'm just, this is just ideas. I'm speaking hypotheticals. I'm just seeing what in my mind could probably be some kind of, way. I just feel like, real talk, women should not be concerned with anybody else but themselves right now. Because I think that's what everybody's on right now anyway.
And I think that you bring up some good points. I think that there's a lot of women that are actually speaking towards that type of movement where it's like we are no longer dealing with X, Y, and Z. I think there's a lot more women, especially on social media, more so Twitter, that are women who are part of that 63% where we're out earning, in terms of bachelor's and master's degrees, right? Where it's like, okay, now you have a master's degrees, you're not dating down. Mm-hmm. Like there is no such thing as dating down now that you have reached this level, right? I feel like there's a lot more of that talk that's happening. There's a lot more of being intentional with the type of man that you end up having a kid with, being more intentional with the type of person that you lay with, etc., right? Mm-hmm. Now, not saying that because you have a master's and this type of man has only a high school degree, just because you see that, you X him out. That's not the case, mm-hmm. right? Because there's also other things that you need to see that he's bringing to the table. But I think there's the other things that come with it, right? Where it's like there's a lot of, oh, well, there's not a lot of men that are on my level in terms of having a master's degree. So I feel like I must date, the dude from the hood that whatever, right? And a lot of them end up falling into those traps of being with the type of men that are, not all of them are like this, but, maybe that doesn't want to take care of the kid, or they don't want to get married. They end up not getting married, right? Like all these other things. And there's a lot of women that are promoting that type of lifestyle. And I think that's being overshadowed by the other stuff, right? Where women are saying, well, good morning to, everybody but these niggas, right? Like, I think what also people have to recognize is like, not being super sensitive to everything, but also realizing that yes, there are these type of women that claim to be feminists, but don't really understand what feminism is. That's true. I think that's what it comes down to. Feminism is something that we all can take part of. Men, women, trans men, everyone can take part of feminism, mm-hmm. because I think it helps all of us in the long run. I think what's happening is that feminism has turned into let's all hate men. But the whole point of feminism is to be able to get men to be allies with us. So I think that that's where the disconnect is happening. And I think when it comes to black women feel extremely disappointed they're disappointed by black men, right? Because if you look at the statistics, black men date outside of their race way more than black women do. Black women and Asian men are the least likely to date outside of their race. So I don't know if you remember when people were trying to cancel Issa Rae because she had wrote a book and she was like, well, black women and Asian men should just be together. Yeah. Being that they're the ones that date outside their race the least. Mm-hmm. And everyone was trying to cancel her. But it was like, before we cancel her, let's really think about it, right? Black women are extremely loyal to black men. Despite that, many black women are, if we look at the numbers, right, like they're out earning in so many different ways. Now, yet black men are the ones that are more likely to date outside of their race. Black men do marry more black women, but it usually ends in what statistics have been showing is that it's ending in divorce, mm-hmm. at a very high rate. But black men are having kids with women outside of their race. Black men are dating outside of their race, whereas black women aren't. Black women are waiting for their black king. Black women are not into interracial dating. So a lot of that hate is being channeled to black men because it's like, well, why do you want to be with the Puerto Rican girl and not with me? Not understanding that it's a preference, and sometimes a lot of it does come from colorism and self-hate. There's also that part too, where
true.
black men don't want to realize, when black men say, well, I don't want my kid to have nappy hair. That's a form of self-hate.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? And if that is all channeled as to, okay, I'm going to have the baby with, this Spanish girl, but I'm not really going to have the baby with the black girl, but I'll still have sex with the black girl, right? And it's like a lot of that. I think what we're starting to see is that it's turning a lot more into hate. And I think that slowly but surely you're starting to see a lot more women trying to break it down. Whereas like understanding that us as black women, we do have to take fault for our own hurt too, right? Like, you do make a good point where we should not be so much seeking validation from men, so much seeking validation from black men because we want this or because we want that, right? Like, there's a lot more out there, and I think that's something that I am trying to preach to, not preach, but also get the message across to other women, where it's like, look, you can desire having a black man. You can have all of that. And I'm not like, I think the black love thing is great. I'm all for it. But I also don't want to knock that. Give it 20 years, maybe less than. This is going to be a huge, predominantly interracial society, because that's the way it's going. And people are trying to keep that black love so strong, but they're not realizing that, like, it's black men that are out here having babies with other,
Condoms not lit no more. # put on the shirt. Condoms are just not lit. I got mine. I keep mine. I keep that thing on me because you will get clapped.
As you should.
But condoms is not lit no more.
But I think that the whole thing with black women, I think the whole point is to continue to try to educate, to get us to all really be on one page. And I think that the reason why it might seem like the movement is a lot slower than it has been is because a lot of black women are now starting to become hip to what's really been going on and what is holding us back. A lot, like you say, a lot of black women are extremely intelligent, but then there's a lot of that trauma, there's a lot of that hate that keeps us back, right? There's the colorism that keeps us back. There's he married that white girl that keeps us back. There's all those types of things that hold us back instead of, realizing like, yo, we have options.
That's true.
Like realizing like, yo, like we don't have to just stick to black men. We can try the Dominican man. We can try the Caribbean man. We can try the Asian man. We can try. And we can still have what we desire in terms of a lover. It doesn't have to just come from a black man. We can have the family. We can have all that other stuff.
That's true.
We can have all these things if we stop seeking validation from society, from black men, from whoever else. And I think a lot of it just comes down to finding people who understand this type of work and understand that this does come with having to do a lot of research and then having to slowly but surely get the message across. And I think that once we start to break down all the other things, like all the twerkers and the strippers and the this and the that, right? Like, me personally, I don't care for any of it. Like, I feel like I'm going to support the stripper just like I'm going to support the trans woman. Like, that's just what that is. Because if I'm here, I can't be pro-woman and be pro-black woman and not support the black stripper. Like, that's just not how it works. Because I think that's what it also comes down to as well, right? When you say ladylike, but that's subjective. And at the end of the day, ladylike comes down to what the man appears as ladylike. True. Right? Because who's to say that the stripper is not out here stripping to get her money, but when she steps out, she is ladylike, right? So I feel like at the end of the day, if we're going to be pro-black woman, we got to be pro-black woman, all types of pro-black women, all types of black women. Now, I'm not saying the black woman that drugs the man to get money. Now we got to hold that black woman accountable with love. And I think that's what needs to be put out there.
The love is definitely missing.
Right? Like, because the love is missing. It's like we want to be pro-black woman, but we have to be a certain type of black woman. And I don't think that's fair. That's not fair. Because there is no certain type of black woman. And I feel like once we kill that narrative, who can say anything about that?
True.
I don't want to hear black men say, you got to be ladylike, you got to be this, you got to be that. Because that's subjective. And who are you to say that
you're not a woman, so why are you making statements about women?
Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if we support all black women and we support all women, I'm going to stick with black women. If we support all black women, the stripper, the lawyer, the one that was a felon but now came out and now she's doing what she has to do to support her kids, the single black mom, the mom that made a mistake, the mom that was on drugs, but now she's no longer on drugs, right? The black woman that's going to school, the black woman that had a baby at 16, right? If we support all black women, but also know how to hold each other accountable, I think that's really the goal. But I feel like we're divided in that. So we'll see how that looks in a few years. Hopefully we get to like...
I have a question.
Okay.
See, I don't know if you're the right person to ask this question, so I really don't want to get there. But it was going to be about like trans. I think I'm going to just have a podcast episode with somebody who's trans.
Ask it.
Is a trans woman, so a trans woman is considered a man who becomes a woman? Mm-hmm. Are they considered women?
I think that's an interesting question.
That's why I was like, I don't know if you can really answer that question for me.
Gender nowadays is becoming extremely like...
what you want to be, what you could afford to become. Not so much what you're born with.
Gender and sex, a lot of it is really becoming down to like what you want it to be. But I think that if you're going to be pro-woman... I personally would say if you're a trans woman, then yeah, you're a woman. But I think what ends up happening is that you get the people who feel like, okay, well, I get a period, well, I birth children, well, I do this and I do that, so you're not, right? And then you have those debates. And I think that a lot of that comes down to like people wanting to be real exclusive about certain things, but wanting to be inclusive. And I think that's the issue with inclusivity, is that recognizing that when it comes down to inclusivity, that some people have a line, right? So a lot of people are more so for like liberal thinking, but real conservative living. And it's like, yeah, like we accept all people, but let it be you in those shoes. And now you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Mm-hmm. So people do say trans women are women, but then you have people who say they aren't.
Because I know I seen like not too long ago, there was like a trans woman who was wrestling. She was beating, and she was beating all these girls in wrestling. And I'm like, bro, it's like, imagine I went through a little process. I got to take a certain amount of pills. Or, you know, like there was a track runner who was beating out everybody, and she was nice. And they're like, nah, she has too much high levels of testosterone, so she has to take pills. And I'm just like, but that takes away her X factor. If she's born that way and that's just who she is, she's a woman. She still sits when she pisses. She wears certain kind of clothes and underwear. She has to go through certain type of things. Dudes are still trying to, she a woman.
Yeah.
I don't know. This whole thing is going to be crazy.
It's a lot.
I'm not scared, but I feel like people not really getting smarter. Like these computer people got like phones in their pocket out computers, and they're not utilizing for the fact to enhance themselves mentally. They just doing it to keep themselves entertained and dumb as long as they can, and they don't realize like 5 years go past, 10 years go past.
Right.
So
I don't know what right now the trans community
that's crazy. It's not crazy in the sense of like, oh, like you're not entitled to feeling and loving and doing the things that they want to do. It's crazy in the sense like I feel like there's a trauma in everything and everyone, and I think that we don't address, especially like respectively and with love,
right,
what their traumas may be. Because I do have an episode on here with one of my gay friends, and I haven't put it out yet, and I think it's gonna be really dope. It's called Tough Skin, and he made a really great point. He's like, who in their right mind want to be born black and gay, a black man and gay, and deal with the consequences of that? That's not something that is by accident. It's not something that you would wish on yourself.
Right.
So I think that this also will then go into further conversations about people who are trans women. That's a conversation that definitely needs to be had, because I couldn't imagine wanting to not become a woman and then live as a woman knowing I'm a man, and then trying to find love with someone who's a man who may actually like you,
Yep.
But because of your situation, your circumstance, now he has to question his sexuality.
Yep. And then on top of that, being a black trans woman and your life expectancy is 35.
See, I didn't even know that. See, I ain't tapped in. Yeah, I didn't know that.
I mean, if you know, and I'm like you said, you know, it's definitely a different topic for a different day. But like, if you look at the, you know, Pride, and you understand where Pride came from, right? Pride was not based off of, yeah, let's celebrate, you know,
being gay.
No, Pride was, all that whole movement was based off of police brutality, period. Because police were beating up trans people, you know, especially in New York, which is why the Stonewall riots happened, right? And that movement was led by, which we don't talk about, but of course, right? Like, who writes our history books? Black trans women, you know? You know, you look at a lot of the trans women who have, you know, recently, many have, a couple have actually died in the last few years. And they tend to all die by, their bodies are always floating in the Hudson River, and we never know why.
That's real.
And now that cycle is happening again. But this time, it's not more so like, oh, you know, suicide, right? Now black trans women are being murdered, like literally being shot to death. So I don't know how what the trans community will look like in a few years from now, but I would say I'm a little worried, especially for the black trans community, because it's getting pretty bad out there. So I just send like a lot of love and prayers to that community, more so the black trans women community, because, you know, 5 have died since 2019 has started, I believe. I think. Yeah. So.
I feel it. So She's Fierce podcast, She's Fierce program. Project.
Yes.
All right. People want to support what you got going on. How could they do it? What they gonna do? How they go about it?
So I would say, in terms of supporting, being that we are on a revamping stage with our website and like our Instagram and stuff, I would just say people can follow us on the She Is Fierce Project Instagram, literally She Is Fierce Project. And that's it for right now, just because we are revamping and we are revisiting like our mission and our vision, being that we're moving to Virginia. So now we'll be in a different state. There'll be a totally different type of population down there, different types of people, and now we'll probably have more funding, so we'll be able to do a lot more stuff. But definitely the podcast will be coming back sometime later this year. But the Instagram will be up and popping, the website will be up and popping, but right now it is more so just the Instagram, and that's She Is Fierce Project.
100. All right, well, y'all know the face, y'all know the man. I'm not even gonna talk too much because y'all just know the vibes, man. I just feel like at this point everybody can't be butter, bro. That's why they got margarine. That's why they got I can't believe it's not butter. That's why they got invitation, everything. Everybody cannot be butter, you know. But, you know, follow the brand at Cletus_Real Talk, the Cletus group. I am Cletus. Y'all know everything immaculate that we touching, bro. Biggs coming out soon, my little initiative. I ain't gonna call it little, but my initiative is pretty grand. I ain't gonna cap. I just don't want to talk too much. I just feel like, you know, that non-disclosure gonna get me out my money and stuff and out my purpose, and I ain't trying to trick myself out my position. But yeah, like I said, man, you know, you tuned in and Talk Ain't Cheap, and usually it's not that deep. You know the vibes.